What if the impossible had happened? What if Thanos had truly won? The Avengers defeated, Earth in ruins, and the entire universe trembling under his power. In this shocking alternate ending story, every hero falls, hope fades, and destiny itself is rewritten. Brace yourself for a dark, epic story where every choice changes everything, the ultimate what-if scenario you've never seen before. Now take a deep breath and let's go. In another universe, the Avengers lost. The sky burns red above the ruins of Earth. The ground trembles beneath the weight of silence. And on this shattered world, destiny took a darker path. The battle had been long, brutal and desperate. Titan and human blood mixed with the dirt of the battlefield. Armored giants lay motionless. The once mighty heroes, broken, silent echoes of what they once were. Thunder no longer roared, the hammer lay shattered, the shield split in half, and the Iron Man was gone. Thanos stood among the fallen, his armor cracked, his breathing heavy, yet his gaze unyielding. The golden light of the Infinity Stones shimmered across his massive hand. Each gem pulsed with infinite potential, whispering through the air like the voice of creation itself. He had faced gods, soldiers, and legends. He had endured pain beyond comprehension, but now he stood as the last being capable of choice, and he chose victory. Tony Stark's final gambit, his attempt to steal the stones, had failed. The gauntlet remained in Thanos' grasp. The hero's hand never snapped. The Titan stared at the trembling form of Thor, kneeling before him, eyes burning with fury and regret. "You should have gone for the head," Thanos muttered, echoing the cruel symmetry of fate. Then, a deep breath, a pause, and a single word that shattered the universe once more. "Thanos, I am inevitable." The snap echoed across the cosmos. But this time, it did not erase half of life. It erased all who stood against him. Thor vanished into golden dust, his last cry swallowed by the void. Captain America fell to his knees as his shield disintegrated between his hands. The Hulk roared one final time, then faded like smoke in sunlight. Even Carol Danvers, the last flicker of resistance, burned away under the power of the stones. The battlefield was empty, only the wind remained. Thanos lowered his hand, the gauntlet still glowing, smoke rising from its scorched surface. He stared at it, almost reverently, the weight of infinite existence resting upon his palm. The sun, blood-red and broken, hung low over the horizon, casting long shadows across the fallen world. Birds no longer sang. Rivers no longer flowed. The earth itself seemed to hold its breath. The Titan walked among the ashes, the sound of his armor echoing like a funeral bell. Every step left a mark in the dust, the footprints of a god who had undone creation. He found the remains of Tony's armor, a burnt mask staring back at him. For a brief moment, there was something almost human in Thanos' expression, not pride, not joy. Something deeper, something colder, regret, or perhaps understanding. He sat down among the ruins, watching the sunrise over a broken planet, and for the first time since the dawn of creation, the universe was still. No more battles, no more cries, no more imbalance. Thanos closed his eyes and whispered to himself, almost tenderly, "Now, it begins anew." And so the end became the beginning. The mad Titan had won, and the age of heroes had come to an end. The snap did not end the universe. It remade it. When the light faded, the cosmos was silent. The galaxies hung still, their stars dimmed, as if mourning the death of defiance itself. For the first time in all of existence, there was no war, no hunger, no chaos, only balance. But balance, as Thanos would learn, is not peace. The earth healed, yes, but not for mankind. Forests consumed the cities. Rivers carved through the bones of steel and glass. The noise of civilization was gone, replaced by wind, by silence, by the hum of insects in places once drowned in machinery. Thanos rebuilt nothing. He simply let the world breathe again. He had destroyed those who resisted and left the meek to inherit the silence. A few 100 million humans remained, chosen not for their power nor their virtue, but for their insignificance. They awoke into a world without leaders, without armies, without the Avengers. That for a time there was awe, then fear. Small communities formed beneath the remnants of old cities. Children grew up hearing myths, stories whispered about the gods who once protected them. Iron Man, Captain America, the god of thunder. Names spoken like ancient prayers to forgotten spirits. But prayers go unanswered in this new universe. Above them all, in the quiet of the cosmos, Thanos watched. From his sanctuary, now rebuilt as a throne world, orbiting the burned shell of Titan, he sat in solitude. No armies, no worshippers, only the stones, glowing softly in the void before him. Every so often he would raise his hand, feeling the pulse of infinity under his skin. Each beat, each flash reminded him he had the power to do anything. He could resurrect, he could create. Yet he chose to do nothing, because in his mind, perfection had already been achieved. He spoke rarely now, but when he did, his words carried across the stars through the cosmic energy of the stones. Peace, he said, is not the absence of death. It is the acceptance of purpose. And for decades, life existed in that quiet acceptance. No wars, no inventions, no dreams, just survival. But balance, once imposed, begins to decay. The longer the universe stood still, the more cracks appeared within it, unseen but inevitable. Reality began to fray at the edges, like glass straining against pressure, and from those cracks, something began to stir. Across distant galaxies, strange anomalies emerged. Stars that had been extinguished flickered again for brief moments. Echoes of erased souls shimmered in the cosmic dust, memories refusing to fade. And on one forgotten planet, in the cold remains of a laboratory long abandoned, a small blue spark ignited. Rocket, the last guardian, the last engineer. He had survived, scarred and haunted, carrying with him a single piece of stark technology, a fragment of the nanocore, fused with gamma residue and quantum particles, a fragment capable of bending time, though barely stable. He whispered to it every night, as if speaking to ghosts. "Come on, Tony, you always had a plan, right?" Elsewhere, in the ruins of New Asgard, Valkyrie stood at the edge of the sea, staring into a horizon that never changed. The people followed her, but their eyes were empty. She could still feel the hum of Mjolnir somewhere deep beneath the earth, buried and forgotten. She had sworn never to touch it again, but the world was dying, and even gods can only stay silent for so long. And far beyond them, light years away, a streak of cosmic fire cut across the black. Carol Danvers, drifting through the void. Half her power drained from the last battle, but her will unbroken. She had seen what Thanos' universe had become, a monument to emptiness. Each survivor carried the same question, one that echoed through their dreams. If one being could rewrite reality, could another undo it? Meanwhile, Thanos began to feel it, the imbalance, not in life or death, but within the very fabric of the stones themselves. They trembled beneath his touch. The Power Stone flickered. The Time Stone began to pulse out of rhythm, and for the first time since his victory, he felt something he had long buried: doubt. He gazed into the Soul Stone and saw faces, endless, familiar faces: Gamora, Natasha, the billions erased in his pursuit of perfection. Their eyes stared back at him through the amber glow, wordless, eternal. And in that reflection the Titan saw not a god, but a lonely man sitting atop a universe of ashes. He rose from his throne, stepping into the cold void of space, watching the stars burn out one by one. Balance, he thought, was never meant to last. All things must fall into chaos again, even perfection. He clenched his fist around the gauntlet, but for the first time his hand trembled, and somewhere, hidden within the cracks of time itself, the multiverse began to bleed. Reality, unstable, fragmented, whispered a single truth to those who still dared to dream. The fight is not over. Perfection had begun to collapse. The universe that Thanos built was unraveling, not through rebellion, not through war, but through the quiet, unstoppable decay of existence itself. Reality strained under the unnatural order imposed by the Infinity Stones. The more stable Thanos made the cosmos, the more fragile it became. Stars began to die without reason. Planets aged in seconds. Time lost its rhythm. And in that chaos, something ancient awakened, the echo of possibility itself. Across the fractured multiverse, ripples spread. Fragments of alternate timelines, pieces of what once was, began to bleed through. Visions haunted the survivors, glimpses of the lives they never lived. Valkyrie saw Asgard reborn in flame. Rocket heard the laughter of his fallen friends. Carol saw Earth, alive again. Each vision carried a message. Reality remembers. And within these echoes, the survivors found something stronger than fear. They found purpose. Rocket, working tirelessly, had rebuilt a fragment of quantum circuitry using Stark's old nano-architecture. A device not to travel through time, but to reach across it, to find the echoes of the ones they lost. Around him stood Valkyrie, Nebula, and a small band of survivors, the few who still believed the universe could be undone. Rocket's voice trembled with exhaustion. If he rewrote the rules once, maybe we can rewrite them back. Valkyrie stared into the distance, her voice low, resolute. Then let's find the cracks and break them open. Carol, then we do it together, for them, for everyone he took. Meanwhile, far beyond the stars, Thanos sat within the heart of his sanctuary. The once quiet halls now echoed with whispers. The stones pulsed irregularly, bright, then dim like a heartbeat in distress. He felt it, the multiverse itself pulling away from him, resisting his control. Every attempt to stabilize it only deepened the fractures. The Titan looked upon the gauntlet, now fused into his very flesh, veins of light crawling up his arm, burning like molten fire. He whispered into the void, as if to someone unseen, "I gave them balance, and they give me rebellion. Even now, they cannot be still." The Soul Stone answered him, not with words, but with visions. He saw Tony Stark, alive in another timeline, standing on a ruined battlefield, holding a glowing gauntlet of his own. He saw Thor, wielding Stormbreaker once more, his eyes filled with thunder. He saw countless worlds where Thanos had fallen. The Titan gritted his teeth, rage igniting within him. These shadows, these lies, I erased you. But the visions were not lies. They were remnants. Reflections bleeding through the barriers of time, reminders that reality itself could never truly be conquered. Cut to Rocket's workshop. The device sparks to life. A swirling portal of golden blue energy begins to form, unstable but growing. Rocket. It's working. I think it's... Oh, hell. I think it's opening. The vortex flickers, showing shapes, silhouettes of the fallen Avengers, suspended in light. Nebula steps forward, her cybernetic eye glowing. "They're not gone," she murmurs. "They're just waiting." But Thanos felt it too. The surge of quantum energy rippled through space, reaching him. He turned toward the light of the nearest star, his voice low and trembling with fury. They would dare defy destiny itself. The stones flared violently as if answering him. In that moment, he raised his hand, and for the first time since his victory, unleashed their full power again. Reality itself screamed. Across the cosmos, time shattered. The skies above Earth cracked open, waves of light and darkness colliding, cities flickered between existence and nothingness. The resistance fell to their knees as the ground itself shifted beneath them. Valkyrie shouted over the chaos, gripping her sword. "Rocket, shut it down!" "I can't," he screamed. "It's feeding on the stone's energy. He's pulling reality apart." The portal convulsed, and from within it figures began to emerge, ghostly at first, then solid. The fallen Avengers, flickers of Tony, Steve, Natasha, and Thor, drawn across timelines fighting against the pull of oblivion. Slow motion, wind howling, light tearing through the darkness. Carol flew upward, her energy colliding with the storm. Her voice echoed through the void. "Thanos, you wanted balance? Then face what you destroyed." And as her light struck the heavens, the impossible happened. The fractures aligned. The multiverse, countless versions of Earth, of timelines, of destinies, merged for a single heartbeat. For that brief instant, every soul Thanos had erased existed together once more. Every Avenger, every life, every world, silence, everything suspended, time frozen. And Thanos saw it, a universe not balanced, but alive, flawed, chaotic, unpredictable, and utterly beautiful. His hand trembled again. For the first time, he questioned whether his purpose had been truth or delusion, but the power he unleashed could not be contained. The gauntlet began to crack, energy leaking from the stones like bleeding light. The sky erupted, space itself began to fold inward. Low rumble, the sound of the universe breaking. Thanos looked at the stars, not in fear, but in grim acceptance. "Even gods," he whispered, "must face the consequences of creation." And as the light consumed him, the multiverse shattered into infinite fragments. Worlds collided, merged, and were reborn. Fragments of realities colliding, flashes of heroes, planets, timelines. The sound fades into stillness. When the light finally faded, nothing was the same. When the storm of the multiverse subsided, the world that remained was unfamiliar. Time no longer flowed as it once had. The fabric of reality, torn and reformed, shimmered with faint cracks, like glass under sunlight. Yet in those cracks, life endured. The survivors, those who had resisted, those who had been lost, and those who had been called back from the edges of oblivion, stood together. They looked upon the ruins of what had been and the dawn of what could be. Rocket, exhausted but resolute, held the last fragment of Stark's device. He turned to Carol, Valkyrie, and Nebula. "It's done, for now," he whispered. "But we need to rebuild. We need to fix this." Carol nodded, energy radiating faintly around her. The light from her hands illuminated the faces of heroes who had once been erased, now returning from their fractured timelines. Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, Natasha Romanoff, Thor, all alive, all aware of the horrors that had transpired. Thanos, kneeling among the ruins, the gauntlet cracked and lifeless. His eyes are weary, not fierce, a titan humbled by his own ambition. Thanos gazed at the scattered survivors. For the first time, he understood the true cost of his vision. He had achieved what he sought, balance, but at the expense of freedom, love, hope, and himself. "Balance," he whispered, voice low, almost human, "is nothing without consequence." And in that quiet, he vanished, not with a snap, not with fury, but as a reminder that even gods can fall, and even the most inevitable plans can unravel. The world began to heal. Cities rose from the dust, rebuilt not by force but by determination. People remembered, they honored the fallen, they celebrated the survivors, and they lived, free from the tyranny of imposed perfection. Valkyrie returned to New Asgard, guiding her people to rebuild not just walls, but spirit and courage. Thor, humbled and weary, ventured beyond the stars, seeking redemption for what he could not prevent. Carol returned to Earth, standing among the people, a beacon of light and hope. Nebula and Rocket rebuilt what they could of the Guardian's legacy, forging a path toward cosmic vigilance. Forests reclaiming cities, oceans sparkling under new suns, people walking through streets alive with laughter and life. Even the Avengers, scarred by the battle and the fractures of reality, understood their new purpose. No longer bound by old rules, they became guides, protectors, and symbols, not of power, but of resilience. The multiverse shimmers, still fragile, still fractured, but alive. A soft, golden glow radiates from the infinite fragments, coalescing into something new. The universe learned a lesson written in light and shadow, that control is fleeting, that perfection is hollow, and that even in the face of absolute power, life will find a way. Time, finally, began to flow once more. The Earth spun on, resilient and proud. Galaxies continued their silent dance, and the Avengers, together again, looked toward a horizon of endless possibility. The wind carries whispers of what was lost and what is yet to come. In a universe where gods fall and titans rise, one truth remains eternal: hope endures. Even in the shadow of inevitability, even in the echoes of despair, life persists. The last dawn had come, not as an end, but as a beginning. If you did enjoy this video and want more alternative ending stories, subscribe to our channel and help us with your like. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video.